My name is Linda. I am 32 years old and I live in a quiet suburban neighborhood. The airport drop-off lane is usually a place for long goodbyes. For us, it was a crime scene waiting to happen. My husband, Jack, leaned in through the window. He kissed my cheek. His lips felt dry. He told me he would call when he landed. He smiled that charming smile that used to make my knees weak. Now it just made my stomach turn. I watched him walk through the sliding glass doors. He didn't look back. He never did. I put the car in drive. That was when the silence broke. My 6-year-old son, Liam, was sitting in his booster seat behind me. He had been quiet all morning, but as I pulled away from the curb, his small voice cut through the air. "Mom," he whispered. "He wants us gone." I didn't slam on the brakes. I didn't scream. I didn't even ask him how he knew. I just gripped the steering wheel tighter until my knuckles turned white. I looked at my son in the rearview mirror. His eyes were wide, but he wasn't crying. Fear didn't roar through me. It went quiet. It went cold. Because deep down, I didn't just hear a child's imagination. I heard the truth. I always knew this moment was coming. I didn't drive home. I drove away from the life Jack thought he could erase. But before I tell you how everything flipped, like and subscribe. Drop a comment. Where are you watching from? My name is Linda. I am 32 years old. I need to tell you about the man I thought I married. I need you to understand why I didn't see the knife coming until it was already pressed against my back. His name is Jack. When I met him, he was the kind of man who filled a room just by walking into it. He wasn't the loudest person, but he had a gravity. People looked at him. They wanted to hear what he had to say. I was 24. I was working a job I didn't love in a city that felt too big for me. I felt invisible most of the time. I was the girl who held the elevator door for others. The one who apologized when someone else bumped into me. I was quiet. I was careful. Then Jack saw me. It felt like a spotlight had been turned on. He didn't just look at me. He focused on me. He asked me questions about my life, my thoughts, my small dreams. He listened. Or at least he acted like he was listening. He was ambitious. He talked about building an empire. He talked about the future with such certainty. He used words like legacy and foundation. To me, those words sounded like safety. I mistook his ambition for devotion. I thought he wanted to build a world for us. I didn't realize he just wanted to build a world for himself, and he needed a prop to make it look respectable. I was the perfect prop. We got married 2 years later. It was a big wedding. His choice, not mine. He wanted the big venue, the expensive flowers, the long guest list of business partners and potential clients. I remember standing in my white dress, my feet hurting in heels he picked out for me, smiling until my face HDHD. "You look beautiful, Linda," he whispered during the reception. "You look like a queen." I felt chosen. I felt lucky. That was the trap. The feeling of being lucky to have him. It made me ignore the small things. I ignored how he slowly took over the finances. "You don't need to worry about bills, babe," he said. "I'm the provider. You just make the house a home." It sounded romantic. It sounded old-fashioned and caring. So, I handed over my paycheck. I closed my personal bank account. I let him put my name on credit cards where the bill went straight to his office. I ignored how he slowly cut off my friends. He didn't ban them. Jack was too smart for that. He just made it difficult. He would complain about them. "Sarah is so loud. She gives me a headache." Or, "Why do you hang out with Jen? She's going nowhere in life. You need to surround yourself with quality people." Slowly, I stopped calling them. I stopped going out. My world shrank until it was just Jack, the house, and me. Then came Liam. When I got pregnant, Jack seemed thrilled. He bought the best crib, the most expensive stroller. He paraded me around at dinner parties with his hand on my belly. "My heir," he would joke. Everyone would laugh. I laugh, too. But when Liam was born, the dynamic shifted. Jack didn't like the crying. He didn't like the mess. He didn't like that my attention was no longer 100% on him. I remember one night when Liam was 3 months old. He had colic. He had been screaming for hours. I was exhausted. I hadn't showered in 2 days. I was rocking Liam in the living room, tears streaming down my face. Jack walked in. He was wearing a crisp suit, smelling of expensive cologne. He looked at me with something that wasn't sympathy. It was disgust. "Can't you keep him quiet?" he asked. "I have a meeting in the morning." "He's sick, Jack." I said, "I'm trying." "Try harder," he said. And he went to the guest room and shut the door. That should have been the moment I left, but I was tired. I was dependent on him for money. I had no friends left to call. And I still believed the lie. I told myself he was just stressed. He was working hard for us. He was the provider. I excused him. I forgave him. I made excuses for his coldness. Years went by. We fell into a rhythm. He worked late. I raised Liam. I kept the house perfect. I made sure dinner was on the table at 7 p.m. Even if he didn't show up until 9 p.m., I convinced myself this was normal. This is what marriage is, I thought. The fire fades and you just settle into a partnership. I looked at other couples and wondered if they were faking it, too. I wondered if every wife felt a little bit lonely when her husband walked into the room. I didn't know that while I was trying to be the perfect wife, he was already rewriting the script. I didn't know that my stability was an illusion. I was standing on a rug and he was already gripping the edge, getting ready to pull. I loved him. That is the saddest part of this story. Despite the coldness, despite the loneliness, I loved him. I wanted him to be the man he was when we first met. I kept waiting for that spotlight to turn back on me. I waited for years, but the light never came back. Only the shadows got longer. People think betrayal is a bomb. They think it explodes and destroys everything in an instant. It's not. Betrayal is a cancer. It grows slowly. It starts in the dark corners of your life where you aren't looking. It spreads quietly until it's everywhere. The shift didn't happen overnight. It crept in like fog. It started with the phone. Jack used to leave his phone on the kitchen counter. He didn't care if I saw a notification pop up. But then the habits changed. He started keeping it in his pocket. If he took it out, he placed it face down on the table, always face down. If I walked into the room while he was texting, his thumb would freeze. He would click the screen off and slide it away. "Who are you talking to?" I asked once. "Just work, Linda," he snapped. "Why are you so nosy?" "It's business." He made me feel small for asking. He made me feel like a nagging wife, so I stopped asking. Then came the time. He started coming home later. First it was 7:30, then 8 o'clock, then 10 o'clock. "Big project," he said. "Merger coming up. Client dinner." I reheated his food. I sat alone at the dining table eating with Liam. I told Liam, "Daddy is working hard for us." I was lying to my son, and I was lying to myself. When Jack did come home, he wasn't really there. He was physically present, but his mind was somewhere else. I would try to tell him about my day. "Liam drew a picture at school today." I'd say, "The washing machine is making a funny noise." "Aha," he would say. He wouldn't look up from his plate. He wouldn't ask a follow-up question. It was like talking to a wall. Then the business trip started. Before he traveled maybe twice a year. Suddenly, it was every month, then every 2 weeks. "I have to go to Chicago," he said. "I have to go to Miami." He would pack his bag with a kind of energy I hadn't seen in years. He bought new shirts. He started working out again. He lost weight. He got a new haircut. "You look great," I told him one morning. He looked at me in the mirror fixing his tie. "I have to look professional. Linda image is everything." He didn't do it for me. I knew that. When he looked at me, his eyes glazed over. There was a softness in his voice sometimes, but it wasn't love. It was worse. It was pity. It was the kind of voice you use with a sick dog you know you're going to put down soon. "Hey," he would say, patting my shoulder awkwardly. Why don't you buy yourself something nice today? Go to the mall. He was buying his conscience clear. He was giving me distractions while he lived his real life. I felt myself fading inside my own marriage. I felt like a ghost haunting my own house. I started to check my reflection in the mirror more often. Was I ugly? Was I old? I was only 32. I looked fine, but I didn't feel fine. I felt grey. I tried to win him back. I cooked his favorite meals. Roast chicken with rosemary lasagna from scratch. He would eat it quickly and go to his office. I have emails, he said. One night, I put on a dress I knew he liked. I put on makeup. I waited for him in the living room after Liam was asleep. When he walked in, he stopped. He looked at me and for a second I saw annoyance flicker in his eyes, just for a second. Then he covered it with a fake smile. You look nice, he said. What's the occasion? I just wanted to look nice for you, I said. Oh, that's sweet, he said. He yawned. I'm beat. Long day. I'm going to crash. He walked right past me. He didn't touch me. He went upstairs and 5 minutes later, I heard the shower running. I sat on the couch in my nice dress and listened to the water. I felt a coldness settle in my chest. It wasn't anger yet. It was confusion. It was hurt. Why wasn't I enough? I started to doubt my own mind. Maybe he really was just working hard. Maybe I was being demanding. Maybe I was the problem. Jack was good at that. If I ever brought up his distance, he turned it around on me. You're so insecure, Linda. He would say, I'm out there busting my back to pay for this house, for your car, for Liam's school, and you're complaining that I don't hold your hand enough. Grow up. He made me feel selfish for wanting affection, so I shrank even more. I became quieter. I tried to be the low-maintenance wife. I thought if I demanded nothing, he would love me again. But the silence in the house grew louder. Liam noticed it, too. Is Daddy mad? Liam asked me one day while playing with his blocks. No, sweetie, I said. Daddy is just busy. He doesn't play with me anymore, Liam said. He didn't look sad. He just stated it like a fact. That broke my heart more than his neglect of me. He was ignoring our son. I remember waking up one night at 2 a.m. The bed next to me was empty. I got up and walked into the hallway. I saw light coming from under the door of his home office. I walked closer. I heard his voice. It was low, gentle. I know, he was saying. I miss you, too. It won't be long now. I promise. I froze. My hand hovered over the doorknob. Yeah, I can't talk long. She's asleep upstairs. That was me. I was she. I wasn't Linda. I wasn't his wife. I was the obstacle. I didn't open the door. I couldn't. I was a coward. I turned around and walked back to bed. I laid there in the dark, shaking. I knew deep down, I knew right then, but I wasn't ready to face it. I needed proof. I needed to be sure, because once you know the truth, you can't go back. And I was terrified of what lay ahead. Denial is a powerful drug. Even after hearing him on the phone, I tried to pretend it wasn't happening. I told myself maybe he was talking to a business partner. Maybe I miss you was a joke. But the universe has a way of forcing you to see. It happened on a Tuesday. A regular boring Tuesday. Jack had taken my car that morning because his SUV had a flat tire. He swapped vehicles and drove off to work. Around noon, he called me. Linda, he said. He sounded rushed. I left a file in the backseat of your car. I need it. Can you bring it to my office? Sure, I said. I was happy to help, happy to be useful. Just drop it at the front desk, he said. Don't come up. I'm in a meeting. Okay, I said. I went out to the garage. I opened the back door of my sedan. I saw the file folder he mentioned, but as I reached for it, something else caught my eye. It had slid under the passenger seat, just a glimpse of black plastic. I reached under and pulled it out. It was a phone, not his regular iPhone. This was a cheap prepaid Android. A burner phone. My heart stopped. The air left the garage. Why would my husband have a second phone? I held it in my hand. It felt heavy, like a loaded gun. I pressed the side button. The screen lit up. It was locked. Of course, it was locked. I stared at the keypad. 4 digits. I tried his birthday. Incorrect passcode. I tried our anniversary. Incorrect passcode. I tried his regular PIN. Incorrect passcode. I took a breath. I thought about the man he had become. The man who was obsessed with his image. The man who thought he was smarter than everyone else. I tried the year he started his company. Click. The phone unlocked. My stomach dropped. I saw the icons. No email, no banking apps, just text messages and photos. My hands were shaking so bad I almost dropped it. I tapped on the messages. There was only one conversation thread. No name, just a number. I scrolled up. It went back 6 months. Jack, meeting was boring. Wish I was with you. Number baby, I bought that dress you like. Jack, can't wait to take it off you. I felt like I was going to throw up. The vulgarity of it, the casual way he spoke to her. He never spoke to me like that. Not even in the beginning, but I kept scrolling. I had to see it all. I had to drink the poison. Then I saw the messages from last week. The tone changed. It wasn't just sex anymore. It was planning. Number. When are you going to tell her? I'm tired of waiting. Jack, patience. We have to do this right. If I divorce her now, she gets half. You know the laws in the state. Number. So, what's the plan? And then the message that killed Linda, the wife. The message that killed the girl who held elevator doors. Jack, I'm moving the assets. It takes time to hide the accounts. Once they're out of the picture, everything we planned can finally move forward. You'll get your freedom and the money. No baggage. Number. What do you mean out of the picture, Jack? I mean gone, done. I'm handling it. Just trust me. A clean break. No alimony, no child support, just us. I read it 3 times. Once they're out of the picture. He didn't say once I leave her. He said once they're out of the picture, they me and Liam. He wasn't just planning to leave. He was planning to destroy us. He was hiding the money so we would be left with nothing. He viewed his own son as baggage to be discarded. The world tilted. I leaned against the car door to keep from falling. Tears didn't come. Panic didn't come. A cold, hard silence filled my brain. I looked at the timestamps. He sent that message 2 days ago while sitting at the dinner table eating the lasagna I made. He looked at me, smiled, ate my food, and planned to ruin my life. I looked around the garage, my bicycle, Liam's scooter, the recycling bin. Everything looked the same, but everything had changed. I was living with an enemy. I was sleeping next to a monster. I looked at the phone again. Most women collapse when they see betrayal. They scream. They throw the phone. They drive to the office and make a scene. I wanted to scream until my throat bled. But then I thought of Liam. If I confronted him now, what would happen? He would deny it. He would hide the money better. He would manipulate the courts. He was powerful. He had expensive lawyers. I had nothing. If I screamed now, I lost. I took a deep breath. I wiped my clammy hands on my jeans. I didn't confront him. I took my own phone out of my pocket. I took photos of every single text message, every photo, every timestamp. Then I went to his call log. I wrote down the number he was texting. I went to the settings and found the number of the burner phone itself. I did all of this with steady hands. My heart was hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird, but my hands were steady. I locked the burner phone. I slid it back under the passenger seat exactly how I found it. I grabbed the file folder he asked for. I got in the car. I checked my face in the rearview mirror. I looked pale. I pinched my cheeks until they were pink. I fixed my hair. I drove to his office. I walked to the front desk. I smiled at the receptionist. "Hi," I said. "Jack left this file." "Oh, thanks, Mrs. Davis," she said. "He's in a meeting. but I'll make sure he gets it. No rush, I said. Tell him I said hello. I walked out. I got back in my car. I didn't cry until I was 2 miles away, parked in the back of a Superjacket parking lot. Then, I let it out. I screamed into my steering wheel. I sobbed until I couldn't breathe. I mourned the death of my marriage. I mourned the death of the man I loved. I gave myself 20 minutes. Then, I wiped my face. I fixed my makeup again. I wasn't a wife anymore. I was a soldier behind enemy lines. And I had a war to win. I drove home. The house was quiet. Usually the silence felt lonely. Now it felt like a sanctuary. It was my war room. I had to become an actress. I had to give the performance of a lifetime. Jack couldn't know that I knew. If he sensed even a tiny change in me, he would accelerate his plans. He would hide the money faster. He might even get dangerous. I remembered the text. Once they're out of the picture, I didn't know if that meant he was just going to abandon us destitute or if he meant something darker, something physical. I couldn't take that chance. I needed to be exactly what he expected: quiet, agreeable, predictable, stupid. That evening when he came home, I was in the kitchen. I heard the garage door open. My pulse spiked to 120. I forced myself to breathe. In, out, he walked in. He had the burner phone in his pocket. I knew it was there. "Hey," he said. He sounded casual. I turned around. I smiled. It felt like the skin on my face was going to crack, but I held it. "Hi, honey," I said. "How was the meeting?" "Good," he said. "Thanks for bringing the file. You're a lifesaver." He kissed my cheek. His lips felt like ice. I wanted to recoil. I wanted to scratch his eyes out. Instead, I leaned into it. "Happy to help," I said. "Dinner is almost ready." "Great," he said. "I'm going to change." He walked away. He had no idea. That night we ate dinner. He talked about the stock jacket. I nodded. I asked questions. "Oh, really? That sounds complicated." I played the role of the simple wife. The wife who didn't understand business. The wife who needed him to explain the world to her. He loved it. He puffed up his chest. He felt superior. While he talked, I was making a list in my head. 1. Secure the evidence. 2. Secure the money. 3. Secure our safety. The next day, the real work began. As soon as he left for work, I went to the bank, not our joint bank, a different one across town. I opened a new account in my name only. I used my maiden name. Then I went to a library to use a public computer. I didn't want to use the home Wi-Fi. He might have a tracker on it. I searched for lawyers. Not just any lawyer. I looked for the most aggressive divorce attorney in the city, a shark. I found a woman named Helen. Her reviews were brutal. She destroyed my ex-husband. One review said she found money he hid in the Cayman Islands. Perfect. I called her. I made an appointment for the next day. I had to be careful with money. I couldn't withdraw a large chunk from our joint account. Jack would see the notification, so I started siphoning it slowly. When I went to the grocery store, I got $50 cash back. When I filled up the gas tank, I got $20 cash back. It wasn't much, but it was a start. I hid the cash in a tampon box under the bathroom sink. Men never looked there. I also started tracking him. I knew his schedule. I knew when he claimed to be at client dinners. One night, he said he would be late. "Go ahead," I told him. "Don't worry about us. You work so hard." "Thanks, babe," he said. He left. I waited 10 minutes. Then, I got in my car. I had installed a simple GPS tracker on his car the night before. I bought it online with a prepaid Visa card. It was magnetic. I stuck it under his rear bumper. I watched the dot on my phone move. He wasn't going to the office. He was going to the suburbs. I followed the dot. It stopped at a townhouse complex about 30 minutes away. I drove there. I parked down the street. I saw his car and I saw her. She was young, maybe 25, blonde, pretty in a generic way. She opened the door and he walked in. He kissed her right in the doorway. He put his hand on her waist, a gesture he hadn't used with me in 5 years. I took pictures with my phone's zoom lens. Click, click, click. I felt a strange detachment. I wasn't jealous. I was gathering ammunition. Every photo was a nail in his coffin. For 3 weeks, I lived a double life. By day, I was a spy. I met with Helen, the lawyer. I handed over the printouts of the texts. Helen looked at them and whistled. This is gold, Linda. We can destroy him with this. The intent to defraud, the infidelity. We will take him for everything. I don't just want the money, I told her. I want him to hurt. I want him to feel powerless. We can do that, Helen said. By night, I was the beautiful wife. I washed his clothes. I ironed the shirts he wore to see his mistress. I listened to his lies and nodded. I love you, Linda, he said one night, probably feeling guilty because he bought her a diamond bracelet. I saw the receipt in his jacket pocket. I love you too, Jack. I said the lie tasted like ash in my mouth, but I said it. I needed time. I needed everything to be ready. I copied his hard drive while he slept. I found the offshore accounts he was setting up. I found the emails to his accountant asking how to hide assets. My silence became my weapon. He thought I was weak. He thought I was stupid. He thought he had already won. He had no idea that while he was plotting to erase me, I was writing a new ending to his story. I was no longer the victim. I was the architect of his downfall. But then the timeline sped up. I saw a new text on the burner phone while he was in the shower. Jack, booking the tickets for next week. Business trip to Brazil. I'm not coming back. I'll empty the joint accounts the day I leave. She won't know what hit her. My blood ran cold. Brazil. No extradition. He was going to run. He was going to steal everything and leave me and Liam with zero. I had to act. I couldn't wait anymore. The timeline had shifted. The game was entering the final round, and I was ready. The morning of the departure arrived with a strange, heavy silence. It was a Tuesday. The sky was grey, hanging low over the city like a wet wool blanket. Inside our house, the air felt thin, hard to breathe. Jack was moving quickly. He had that frantic energy I had seen him use before big business deals, but this was different. He was checking his watch every 2 minutes. He was tapping his pockets. Passport, wallet, phone. I need to be at the airport by 9 o'clock, he said. He didn't look at me. He was looking through me, focused on a future where I didn't exist. I stood by the kitchen island drinking coffee that tasted like metal. I'll drive you, I said. My voice was steady. I had practiced this sentence in the mirror for 3 days. He paused. He looked at me with a flicker of suspicion. Usually, he took an Uber for international trips. You don't have to, he said. It's a hassle. Traffic will be bad. I want to, I said. I forced a small sad smile. The smile of a wife who is going to miss her husband. Liam wants to say goodbye, too. It's a long trip, Jack. Brazil is far away. He relaxed. His ego won. He liked the idea of his family seeing him off. It fit the narrative. He told himself that he was a good man doing a hard job. Fine, he said, but we leave in 10 minutes. No delays. I went upstairs to get Liam. My son was sitting on his bed, his knees pulled up to his chest. He was wearing his favorite blue hoodie. He looked so small. Come on, Liam, I said softly. We have to drive Daddy to the airport. Liam didn't move at first. He looked at me with his big dark eyes. There was a shadow in them that shouldn't belong to a 6-year-old. It was the shadow of knowing too much. Do we have to? He asked. Yes, I said. We have to. I didn't tell him why. I couldn't tell him that this was the last time he would see his father for a very long time. I couldn't tell him that I had suitcases hidden in the trunk of my car under a blanket. We walked downstairs. Jack was waiting by the door. He looked sharp in his navy suit. He looked like success. He looked like a lie. Let's go, he said. The drive to the airport was excruciating. Jack was on his phone the whole time, typing furiously. I knew who he was texting. I knew he was telling her, almost there. Free soon. I drove carefully. I stayed in the middle lane. I obeyed every speed limit. I couldn't afford to get pulled over. Not today. Liam was in the back seat. He was silent. Usually, he would ask questions. Look at that truck. Can we get ice cream? Today, he just stared out the window at the passing highway. We pulled up to the terminal. The departures sign loomed overhead. It felt like a judgment. Jack got out. He grabbed his bags from the trunk. He didn't offer to help me out. He just stood on the curb checking his watch again. I got out. I opened the back door for Liam. Say goodbye to Daddy, I said. Liam unbuckled his seat belt. He stood up on the car seat but didn't climb out. He looked at his father through the open door. Bye Dad, Liam said. His voice was flat. Jack didn't notice. He reached in and ruffled Liam's hair, messy and careless. Be good for your mom, kiddo. I'll bring you a soccer jersey from Brazil. A promise he never intended to keep. Then Jack turned to me. This was the moment, the final kiss, the Judith kiss. He leaned in. I'll call you when I get to the hotel, he said. Safe travels, I said. He kissed my cheek. It was quick, impersonal. He was already gone. He turned around and walked toward the sliding glass doors. He walked with a bounce in his step. The walk of a man who thinks he has gotten away with murder. I watched him go. I waited until the glass doors closed behind him. I waited until I couldn't see his suit anymore. I got back into the driver's seat. I closed the door. The sound sealed us in. I put the car in drive. I checked my blind spot. I signaled left. That was when the silence broke. Mom, Liam whispered. I looked at him in the rearview mirror. He wasn't looking out the window anymore. He was looking right at my reflection. His face was pale. He wants us gone, Liam said. I didn't scream. I didn't slam on the brakes. The car kept moving forward, merging into the traffic, leaving the terminal. What did you say, baby? I asked. My voice was calm, but my blood had turned to ice. I heard him, Liam said. On the phone, in the bathroom, he said. He said he wants us gone. He said, we are in the way. My hands gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. My 6-year-old son had heard. He had been carrying this secret. He had been living with the same terror I had. He thought his father wanted to kill us. And maybe he wasn't wrong. When did you hear this? I asked. 2 days ago, Liam said he was talking to the lady. He knew about the lady, too. A wave of rage washed over me. It was hotter and fiercer than anything I had felt before. It wasn't just about the money anymore. It wasn't just about the betrayal. Jack had terrorized my son. He had made my little boy feel unsafe in his own home. He had made him feel like garbage to be thrown away. Mom. Liam's voice trembled. Is he going to hurt us? I looked at him in the mirror. I locked eyes with him. No, I said. I said it with the force of a vow. No, Liam. He is never going to hurt us again. But he said, I know what he said, I interrupted. But he is wrong. We aren't the ones who are gone. He is. I pressed my foot down on the gas pedal. The car surged forward. Where are we going? Liam asked. Home. No, I said. We aren't going home. We are going to a new place, a safe place just for us. Does Daddy know where it is? Liam asked. No, I said. Daddy doesn't know anything. I drove away from the airport. I drove away from Jack. I drove away from the life of a victim. The fear didn't roar through me. It went quiet. It was replaced by a cold, sharp clarity. Jack thought he was the hunter. He thought we were the prey. He was wrong. I wasn't driving away to hide. I was driving away to start the war. I didn't take the highway home. I took the back roads. I checked my rearview mirror every 30 seconds to make sure we weren't being followed. Paranoia is a survival skill. I had rented the safe house 3 weeks ago under my maiden name, paid for with cash I had slowly siphoned from the grocery budget. It was a small cabin near the lake about an hour north of the city. It was winter, so the summer crowds were gone. It was isolated. It was perfect. I had already moved the essentials there. Clothes, non-perishable food, cash, a burner phone of my own, and my laptop with all the evidence. We arrived at 11 a.m. The gravel crunching under the tires was the only sound. "Is this it?" Liam asked. He looked at the small wooden cabin. It looked nothing like our sprawling suburban house with the manicured lawn. "This is it," I said. "It's an adventure, Liam. Like camping." I unlocked the door. The air inside was cold and smelled of pine and dust. I turned on the heater. "Go pick a bed," I told Liam. "There's a bunk bed in the back room." He ran off, distracted by the novelty of it. Kids are resilient. As long as I was calm, he would be calm. I went to the kitchen table. I set up my command center, my laptop, my phone, the files. I connected to the internet using a mobile hotspot, not the cabin's Wi-Fi. I needed to be invisible. The first thing I did was open the app connected to the security cameras at our old house. I had installed hidden cameras inside the house 2 days ago. Jack didn't know about them. He only knew about the exterior alarm system. I put one in the kitchen, one in the hallway, and one in his office. I stared at the screen. The house was empty. It looked peaceful. I checked the time. 11:15 a.m. Jack's flight was scheduled to take off at 11:30 a.m. I waited. I needed to be sure he was on that plane. If he wasn't, if he turned around at 11:45 a.m., I checked the flight status online. Departed. He was in the air. He was trapped in a metal tube for the next 10 hours. He couldn't make calls. He couldn't check his bank accounts. He was helpless. I let out a breath I had been holding for a month. But my work wasn't done. I kept the camera feed open on one side of the screen. At 4:32 p.m., the motion sensor on the back door of our old house triggered. My heart jumped. I clicked on the feed. A man was walking up to our back patio. He was wearing a black hoodie and jeans. He had a backpack. It wasn't Jack. Jack was over the Atlantic Ocean. I zoomed in. I didn't recognize him. He walked to the back door. He didn't knock. He pulled a tool out of his pocket, a lockpick set. I watched in silence as he worked on the lock. It took him less than a minute. The door swung open. He walked into my kitchen. He stood there for a moment listening. Then he pulled something out of his waistband. It was a pistol. I sat in the safe house 50 miles away and watched a hitman walk through my kitchen. Liam's whisper echoed in my head. He wants us gone. Jack hadn't just planned to leave us poor. He had hired someone to make sure we disappeared. If I had gone home after the airport, if I had been sitting in that kitchen, I would be dead. Liam would be dead. I watched the man move through the house. He checked the living room. He checked the garage. He went upstairs. He came back down 5 minutes later. He looked annoyed. He took out his phone and made a call. I couldn't hear what he was saying, but I could guess. "They aren't here. The house is empty." He hung up. He looked around one last time, then left the way he came. I stared at the empty kitchen on the screen. That was the exact moment fear died inside me. You think you know what fear is. You think it's a pounding heart or sweaty palms. But real fear, mortal fear, is heavy. It crushes you. But once you survive the moment of death, once you see the bullet miss you, the fear evaporates. It is replaced by a cold, hard rage. I wasn't afraid of Jack anymore. I wasn't afraid of his money or his power. He had tried to kill me. He had tried to kill my son. He had broken the most sacred law of nature. I closed the laptop screen. My hands were perfectly steady. I walked into the bedroom. Leah was playing with his toy cars on the rug. "Mom," he looked up. "I'm hungry. I'll make grilled cheese," I said. "And tomato soup." "Yay," he cheered. I looked at him. I wanted to hug him until he couldn't breathe, but I didn't. I needed to be normal. I went to the kitchen. I buttered the bread. I heated the soup. I hummed a little song. I was a mother making lunch. But inside, Linda was gone. The soft, compliant, loving wife was dead. She died in that kitchen when the man with the gun walked in. A new woman was standing at the stove. This woman was a survivor. This woman was a warrior. And this woman was about to burn Jack's world to the ground. Jack was in the air for 8 more hours. That was my window. He thought he was flying toward freedom. He was actually flying into a trap. I ate dinner with Liam. I read him a bedtime story. I tucked him in. Sleep tight, bug, I said. Night, Mom, he mumbled. I closed his door. I poured myself a glass of water. I sat back down at the computer. It was 8 p.m. I picked up the phone. I called Helen, my lawyer. It's time, I said. Are you safe? Helen asked immediately. Yes, I saw a man enter the house. He had a weapon. There was a pause. Okay, Helen said. Her voice shifted from lawyer to general. We go nuclear now. Do it, I said. Step 1, the money. I logged into the joint accounts. Jack thought he had been clever. He had moved most of the money into a holding account before the transfer to the offshore bank. He thought the holding account was secure, but I had his passwords. I had the keystroke logger I installed on his laptop 3 weeks ago. I accessed the holding account. I didn't steal the money. That would be illegal. I simply froze it. I triggered the fraud alert system. I entered the wrong password 3 times on purpose from a VPN in Russia. Then I called the bank's fraud line pretending to be a panicked wife. Someone is hacking us, I cried. Please freeze everything. My husband is on a plane. He can't authorize anything. The bank manager was helpful. Don't worry, Mrs. Davis. We've locked it down. No funds can move until your husband comes into a branch with 2 forms of ID. He was in Brazil. He couldn't walk into a branch. The money was stuck. He couldn't pay his mistress. He couldn't pay the hitman. He couldn't even pay for his hotel. Step 2, the mistress. I picked up the burner phone I had bought. I opened the text thread with the number I had stolen from Jack's secret phone. I typed, "We need to talk tonight. It's about Jack." She replied instantly. "Who is this?" "His wife," I typed. "I know everything. I know about Brazil. I know about the money. And I know about the man he hired to visit my house today." I watched the 3 dots of her typing bubble appear and disappear. She was panicking. "I don't know what you're talking about." She lied. "The police are on their way to my house right now." I bluffed. "They found the man. He gave them a name. Yours." It was a lie, but a calculated one. She was young. She was probably just greedy, not a killer. If she thought she was being framed for murder, she would crack. "I didn't hire anyone." She texted back. "That was Jack. He said he would handle it. I just wanted the money." Screenshot. She had just admitted conspiracy. "Meet me," I typed. "Or I give this text to the cops." I gave her the address of a 24-hour diner near the airport. I told her to wait there. I didn't go obviously, but I did call the police anonymously and tip them off that a woman involved in a conspiracy to commit murder was waiting at that diner. Step 3, the authorities. I sent the video file of the man with a gun to the police detective Helen knew. I sent the screenshots of the texts. I sent the financial records showing Jack moving money to illegal offshore entities. I built a digital cage around him. By the time Jack's plane touched down in Sao Paulo, his life in America was over. I watched the clock. 6 a.m. he was landing. I imagined him turning on his phone. He would expect a text from the hitman saying, "It's done." He would expect a text from his mistress saying, "I love you." Instead, his phone would remain silent. He would try to check his bank balance. Access denied. He would try to call the mistress. She wouldn't answer because she was currently in an interrogation room. He would realize something was wrong. I sat in the dark cabin watching the sunrise over the lake. The light was pale and cold. My phone rang. It was Helen. The police picked up the mistress. She said she's singing like a bird. She gave them everything. Jack's texts, the plan, The location of the assets. She's trying to cut a deal. And the man, I asked, they have an ID on him from the video. He's a known contractor. They have an APB out. They'll find him. What about Jack? He's in Brazil, Helen said. But he's broke. His cards won't work. The Brazilian authorities have been notified about the fraud and the conspiracy charge. They're waiting for him at customs. I closed my eyes. He's not going to make it out of the airport, Helen said. No, I said. He's not. You did it, Linda. Helen said softly. You saved yourself. I know, I said. I hung up. I walked into the bedroom. Liam was still asleep. He looked peaceful. I had done it. I had executed the plan perfectly. But there was one loose end. Jack was arrogant. He was a narcissist. If he got desperate, he wouldn't just surrender. He would try to blame me. He would try to twist the story. I needed to be ready for the final act. I checked the security cameras at the house one last time. The police were there now. They were putting yellow tape around my front door. It looked like a crime scene. In a way, it was. It was the scene of a murder. The murder of my marriage. But the victim wasn't the one in the body bag. The victim was the one standing in the safe house, drinking coffee, watching the sun come up. The victim had become the victor. And Jack, he was about to learn that the woman he called baggage was the weight that would drag him to the bottom of the ocean. I expected the call. I didn't expect him to find a way back so soon. 3 days passed. We stayed in the cabin. We played board games. We hiked in the woods. Liam seemed happier. The tension that used to radiate from me was gone and he felt the difference. Then my burner phone rang. It wasn't a number I recognized. I answered. Hello you, it was Jack. His voice was ragged. He sounded like he hadn't slept in days. Hello Jack, I said. My voice was cool water. You set me up. He screamed. My cards are frozen. The police are looking for me. You ruined everything. I didn't ruin anything. I said I just stopped you from ruining us. Where are you? He demanded. I'm coming for you. I'm going to. You're not going to do anything. I said, you're in Brazil. I'm not in Brazil. He shouted. I never went through customs. I saw the cops waiting. I bought a ticket back under a fake name. I'm here, Linda. I'm in the city. My stomach dropped. He was here. He was back in the country. You think you're smart, he hissed. I know about the cabin. I saw the charge on the credit card statement before you froze it. The gas station near the lake. I know where you are. He was bluffing. He had to be. I'm coming to get my son, he said. And I'm going to deal with you. The line went dead. I stood there holding the phone. Panic tried to claw its way up my throat. He was coming. He was desperate. A desperate man is the most dangerous kind. I looked at Liam. He was building a Lego tower. I had 2 choices. Run again or end this. If I ran, he would chase us forever. We would always be looking over our shoulders. No. I called Helen. He's back. He knows where we are. Get out. Of there, Helen said. No, I said send the police. Tell them to come to the cabin, but don't use sirens. I need him to come inside. Linda, that's suicide. It's not suicide, I said. It's a trap. I hung up. I packed Liam's bag. Liam, I said, we're going to play a game. I need you to go into the bathroom and lock the door. Put your headphones on. Watch your movie. Do not come out until I come get you. Okay. Is the bad man coming? Liam asked. Yes, I said. But the good guys are coming too. I locked him in the bathroom. It was the only room with no windows. I sat in the living room. I turned on the audio recorder on my phone. I placed it under a magazine on the table. I waited. An hour passed. The silence of the woods was deafening. Then I heard it. Tires on gravel. My heart hammered against my ribs. Thump, thump, thump. A car door slammed. Heavy footsteps on the porch. The door handle rattled. It was locked. Crash. He didn't bother knocking. He kicked the door in. The wood splintered. Jack stood in the doorway. He looked terrible. His suit was wrinkled and stained. He had stubble on his face. His eyes were wild, bloodshot, and manic. He held a tire iron in his hand. "Linda," he roared. I sat in the armchair. I didn't move. I forced my breathing to be slow. "Hello, Jack," I said. He charged into the room. He stopped 3 feet away from me. He raised the tire iron. "Where is he?" he screamed. "Where is my son? Our son?" I corrected. My voice was quiet. "Deadly. He's safe, unlike you." He looked around the room. "You took my money. You turned my girlfriend against me. You destroyed my life." "You destroyed your own life," I said. "You hired a man to kill us, Jack. Did you really think I would just let that happen?" "I built everything," he shouted. He was pacing now, waving the iron. "I earned that money. I deserve to be happy. You were just a weight around my neck. You and that brat. That brat is your flesh and blood." I said he's a mistake. Jack spat just like this marriage. He took a step toward me. "I'm going to fix my mistake now." He raised the weapon. I didn't flinch. I looked him right in the eye. "Jack," I said, "look out the window." He paused. "What?" "Look out the window." He turned his head. Outside in the driveway, blue and red lights were flashing silently. They had arrived 10 minutes ago. I had seen them park down the road and creep up. Jack froze. The tire iron lowered. "No," he whispered. "No, I didn't trap you," I said. "You trapped yourself. You confessed to everything just now." And the police heard every word. The front door, already broken, was filled with unformed officers, guns drawn. "Drop the weapon," they shouted. "Drop it." Jack looked at them. He looked at me for a second. I thought he might swing at me anyway, just to hurt me one last time. But Jack was a coward. Bullies are always cowards when the odds are even. The metal tire iron clattered to the floor. He raised his hands. He started to cry, ugly, sobbing tears. "She set me up." He wailed as they grabbed him. "She's crazy. She planned it all." The officers slammed him against the wall. They cuffed his hands behind his back. "Jack Davis, you are under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, fraud, and solicitation," the officer said. They dragged him out. He looked back at me one last time. His eyes were full of hate. I looked back at him. My eyes were empty. I felt nothing for him. No love, no hate, no pity. He was just a stranger who had overstayed his welcome. "It's over," I whispered. The room was suddenly crowded with police. Helen walked in a moment later. She hugged me. I pulled away gently. "I have to get my son," I said. I walked to the bathroom door. My legs felt weak now. The adrenaline was fading. I unlocked the door. Liam was sitting in the tub, his headphones on, watching a cartoon. He didn't hear a thing. He looked up and pulled his headphones off. "Is the game over?" he asked. I knelt down and pulled him into my arms. I buried my face in his neck. I smelled his shampoo and his little boy sweat. "Yes, baby," I said, tears finally running down my face. "The game is over. We won." The legal process took a year. It was messy. It was loud. Jack tried everything. He fired 3 lawyers. He tried to claim insanity, but the evidence was too strong. The texts, the video, the recording from the cabin where he called Liam a mistake. The jury didn't look at him with admiration. They looked at him with disgust. He got 25 years. The mistress got 5 years in exchange for her testimony. The hitman got 20. I got my life back. I sold the big house. I couldn't live there anymore. Too many ghosts. I bought a small house near the coast, just me and Liam. It has a big backyard and a kitchen that smells like baking bread, not secrets. Liam is 7 now. He plays soccer. He laughs loud. He doesn't whisper anymore. He asks about his dad sometimes. I tell him the truth, but in a way he can understand. Daddy made bad choices. He hurt people, so he has to stay away for a long time. Liam accepts this. Kids understand justice better than adults sometimes. I changed my name. I went back to my maiden name, but then I realized I didn't want that either. That was the name of the girl who was a victim. So, I picked a new name, a name just for me. Tonight, the ocean is loud outside my window. I just tucked Liam into bed. He is safe. The doors are locked, but I don't check them 5 times anymore. Just once. I sit on my porch with a cup of tea. People ask me if I'm happy. Happiness is a complicated word. I don't know if I'm happy yet, but I am free and I am powerful. Not the kind of power Jack had. Not the power of money or fear or control. I have the power of silence, the power of endurance. I survived the man who tried to erase me. I outsmarted the man who thought I was stupid. Sometimes late at night, I think about that moment at the airport. The moment Leah whispered to me, that was the moment I died and the moment I was born. I sip my tea. The steam rises in the cool air. Revenge isn't always fire and fury. It isn't always screaming. Sometimes the most powerful revenge is simply surviving louder than the person who tried to kill you. Jack is in a cage. He is silence. He is nothing. I am here. I am breathing. I am raising my son. I will never live quietly again. I put my cup down. I look at the moon. I won. I say to the night. And for the first time in a long time, I believe.